The ancestors of the Slavs had not only interesting rituals, their own mythology and healing system, but also magic. Church hierarchs and even many historians rarely mention the fact that for some time in the 16th century the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth was considered a local center of the arcane science, where the greatest European magicians, alchemists and necromancers came in crowds without having to fear repercussions. The clergy have always had to fight the Slavs' propensity for forbidden knowledge. They were so effective in this that to this day in legends and language there are only faint traces of the occult passion of our ancestors. These include the expressions to be born under a lucky star or to be the type from under a dark star, commemorating the great popularity of astrology which flourished during the Renaissance era. The legendary Master Twardowski, whose traces have been carefully erased from the pages of history, really existed and supposedly ran a school of witchcraft in Krakow, in Poland. It is even said that the famous magician Jonas Faust, who was to make a pact with the devil, ran the arts of sorcery in Poland. Other famous occultists also came to Poland, including necromancers John Dee and Edward Kelly, or the famous physician chemist Paracelsus. It was Poland that gave birth to the magician Rabbi Mechal, creator of the legendary Prague Golem. Finally, it was Poland that produced one of the most famous alchemists in history, Michael Sędziwój. Descriptions and effects of spells, folk charms used by the so-called wise babies, whisperers or witches collected from Slavic lands. Natural knowledge presented by, among others, whisperers, magicians, shamans, witch doctors, cannot be perceived as superstitions or approached with prejudice in light of the acquired civilization. In every folk belief, superstition, magical ritual, incarnation, there is an old truth gained over many generations, from experience and coexistence with modern nature. We who are fond of the comforts and pleasures of civilization are distancing ourselves from her by alienating ourselves from the environment we came from, and of which we are a part of. Almost 2 centuries ago, Zorian Dulga Chodakowski wrote in his work on Slavonic culture before Christianity. This appeared from the learned knowledge of our history, rites and customs in the epoch of polygamy. Education of Europe was not conducive to the whole period when the Holy Cross began to rise in the vast and divided Slavonic lands. The first messengers to us of today's faith were far from temperate, that they might have something to spare for history and the ages, and this unforable zeal in their successors has hardly reached our time. In this spirit, 10 or more rulers of our tribe have successively overturned the structure erected by nature inspiration, and besides the new laws of heaven, have not succeeded in securing a land property that would last until us and be a reminder of them. And further noted, it might be said that no fallen nation, no modern and polished nation has thought of such an arrangement of earthly names. No one by means of a similar vocabulary has secured an everlasting memory. This is not a litany of all the saints in Spanish America and the islands, orderlessly placed. The Slavonic order is original, proper only to our religions and ancestors, which they have done and preserved for so many centuries in 1,000 places. In this was their unity, hence the honor due to all of them, hence I want to speak. All of them covered themselves with a wretch and the name of fame.